All right, Grant, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're excited to continue our three-part professional development series today. Thank you for joining us and for your dedicated support of our NAD community. My name is Grant Kelly. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Athletics at Johns Hopkins University. I want to personally thank our NAD digital committee members for putting together this series. We want today's discussion to be as interactive as possible, so please feel free to post your questions to the Q&A section, and we will do our absolute best to answer them throughout the session. Also, I'm pleased to announce that NAD is still accepting session ideas for our convention this upcoming June. The deadline is November 19th, and you should all receive the reminder email this afternoon, so please take a look at that. Okay, so for today, leading and moderating our discussion is Jen Montgomery. Jen is the Executive Director of Development for Athletics at George Washington University. She started at GW in July of 2018 and oversees the fundraising efforts for 27 varsity sports, including annual fund and major gifts. Jen came to GW from George Mason University as the Director of Development for Athletics, where she oversaw the major gift fundraising efforts focusing on the endowed scholarship program and capital projects. Jen graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in History from the University of Virginia, where she was on the varsity rowing team. So Jen, we appreciate you, and take it away this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. I appreciate it, and welcome everyone. We're so glad you're joining us here virtually today. We are sad we're not together in person doing this, but so glad for a great turnout. This session, Doing More with Less, is typically a popular one at convention. And we felt we needed to bring it live virtually because now it not only applies to smaller schools with smaller shops, but it applies to everyone in this day and age, whether you are having budget reductions, staff reductions, traveling less, whatever. We're going to touch on it today. So a few housekeeping notes. Again, I'm going to echo Grant. Make sure we want this to be interactive. So use the Q&A to put your questions and we will try to get to all of them. Again, we're going to share best practices today in our ever-changing industry. So always keep that in mind. We are recording this and share with NAD membership. It's also on our YouTube channel for NAD. And again, we're going to have more sessions throughout the year. So I am going to introduce our awesome panel. We feel that doing more with less is a golden opportunity for these smart folks, and they're going to share their ideas. Much to their chagrin, I do not have walk-up music for them. They really wanted me to do that, but I'm not very good with technology. So I'm going to just introduce them quickly and then we'll get going here. So first we have Tim Collins, who is our Senior Associate Athletics Director for Development at Fresno State. Alicia English, Assistant Athletics Director for Revenue Enhancement at Kennesaw State University. Kylie Laurinaitis, Director of Annual Giving for Leadership and Athletics, Springfield College. And Ben Murray, Senior Associate Athletics Director, Executive Director at West Virginia University. So to start us off, first, if you all could describe your team within the athletic department, how many are on your staff, the roles, where you report to, and also start us off with something positive. Ben, we'll kick it to you.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks for having me this afternoon. Excited to be here with everyone. One positive I took out of the COVID experience is my dry cleaning bill has been little to none. So I think that's always looking for some positive light in this negative environment that we're in right now. So I actually had to dust off my sport coat today to do the webinar. So definitely through COVID, the dry cleaning bill has been pretty good. At West Virginia, we actually report centrally. We're housed in athletics and have a dotted line to the athletic director. So people on the outside probably wouldn't know that, but we're housed. We're actually foundation employees. We have 12 full-time staff members and 4 graduate assistants and interns. Inside that, we have 5 people in our major gift department, 3 in our annual fund, 3 or 4 in our donor relations and our event staff. And then we have 2 premium seating people, as well as 1 person in our varsity club. So they're all housed under our realm, and we work hand in hand together through the thick and thin, I guess.
Well, Ben, I'll jump in. Jennifer, if I did get my choice of walk-up songs, it would have been Good Times by Nico Moon, by the way. But to continue on with something positive, and I think we've all experienced this, is how much time we've got to spend with our families as well during some of this. And I know it's limited our travel, and I'm excited. Fingers crossed, I'm going to pass my third COVID test of the week and get to travel with football this weekend to Utah State. But I tell you, my family's like going, what do you mean you're not going to be home for dinner? So I know that's a little bit unique, but that's been a positive. Prior to my arrival at Fresno State, the Bulldog Foundation was up to 11 full-time employees, not counting my position, and 2 part-time employees. And right now we're down to 8 full-time and 1 part-time employee. We are our own separate 501c3, but we do report to athletics and through athletics. But then my position has a dotted line to the university advancement department. Similar, we have some very specific roles, and we have an events person, an accountant. But then after that, a real blend. We have 3 annual fund folks, and then right now 2 gift officers, and those gift officers kind of divide their time with some special projects and serve as major gift officers. So as an example, one of our gift officers is also in charge of our Letter Winners Club as well.
Hey, I'll go. Again, thanks for everybody for having me. Here at Kennesaw State, I will tell you one of the positives that I have, I think with Thanksgiving 2 weeks ago, Jen, I think I've perfected my cranberry relish dish, okay? I have decided to take up a little bit of domestic skills cooking, try my hand. Again, we're having to be inside, can't go out to eat all the time. So I said, I think I'm gonna throw a little bit out there with my Thanksgiving skills and have my cranberry relish dish ready to go. So if anybody, is out there, try your hand at some cranberry relish. It's kind of delicious. So, but as far as our team here in athletics at Kennesaw State, I was just telling the panelists earlier, we're actually very lean and mean here. We actually started as a junior college commuter school here in Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. And we have transitioned now to a full university, actually the 3rd largest here. And so really on staff, it is just 3 of us. So we have 1 major gifts officer, 1 annual fund and major gifts, which is myself, and then another person up under me that does the premium seating, that does stewardship, and that does our events. So the 3 of us, we all work really well hand in hand. But most recently, we just became Division I, maybe about 10 years ago. And so really a lot of the fundraising lied with campus, but now everything is now in-house. We just added football about 5 years ago. And so because we added football 5 years ago, again, they realized some of the fundraising that needed to happen, a lot of the revenue generation. And so just a lean and mean shop with 3 people, we're getting it done and still having those discussions. But we do report right now through athletics with 1 foundation, but a lot of y'all probably are familiar with having just 3 or 4 people on staff and working in that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kylie Laurinaitis. I work at Springfield College in Massachusetts. Great to have everyone on the call today. I think doing more with less is a perfect mantra for a place like Springfield College as it relates to athletics development in particular. I am the primary person that's really overseeing athletics fundraising at large for 26 varsity sports programs, particularly from an annual fund basis and special projects like international travel for our teams, the various projects that come up on a fiscal year basis. We also have a individual that's one of our major gift officers that's really focused on our capital projects. So him and I really work hand in hand. We work in we work in central development, working very closely with our athletic director and our athletics constituents over in Blake Arena. But at the end of the day, really just working as a team together to get things done. As far as a positive, at the end of the day, I think, we can look back on COVID, I'm sure in years, to come and say, oh, it was a really tough time. Of course, there's been many lives that have been lost, but in our work lives, at the end of the day, some folks have lost jobs, but I think, a lot of us have really experienced great opportunity in showing ourselves what we can do and what our potentials are as far as trying new things. And sometimes we look back and say, oh, we should have been really doing this stuff all along. So at the end of the day, I think we're learning a lot at SC, and I think a lot of you out there on the call can probably agree with that. So thanks everyone for being here with us.
Thank you all. And Kylie, we'll stick with you if you don't mind to kick us off here. Can you tell us about how your team is operating during these unique times? If you've had any budget cuts, hiring freezes, whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Jen. I think at SC, we're in a situation where our budgets aren't incredibly hefty, like all of us, right? But I think especially this year, we were challenged to some budget cuts. And at the end of the day, that led to some great opportunity for us to think about what can we do that's more virtual at the end of the day, less print and more virtual. So getting more creative, with what emails we're sending out, with how we're communicating with our constituents via social media, working heavily with our communications department on campus to determine, how can we learn more about how we can best leverage something like targeted Facebook ads to various constituency groups and really digging in on the nitty gritty. In addition to that, we have had some hiring freezes. We had 2 MGOs that left and went to other institutions right in the fall. And at the end of the day, or in the summer, I'm sorry. So at the end of the day, we had so many prospects out there who weren't being communicated with because their assigned gift officer had left Springfield College. So for us, that was a challenge from the start, but what we really did was set, at the end of the day, we said, how can we get our Phone-a-thon students working with some of these folks that were assigned that don't have a personal touch, but don't necessarily fit into anyone else's portfolio right now. So we really moved forward in establishing a remote Phone-a-thon program, which, has been instrumental for us. It's through the RingCentral Solution platform. It allows for our students to make phone calls from their own cell phone, but not from their own cell phone number, which helps with confidentiality purposes, of course, and protecting our students and our student athletes. But at the end of the day, this has allowed us to be able to text donors, to get our students more involved in reaching out to those folks. So it was a process, most certainly, like everything, but at the end of the day, it has served us really well because rather than having, our folks that were assigned not have any personal contact, we've got those students connecting with them. And we've seen great success through that program just by creating that remote experience. Now we have kids calling from home in their bedroom, we have them calling from their residence halls right now. So it's been a really unique opportunity, I think, for us at SC, just again, doing more with less, figuring out how to pivot. If A, B, and C don't work, we go to, D, E, and F, so we work it out.
Thanks, Kylie. Tim, you want to go next?
Yeah, so we've been dealing with hiring freezes and budget cuts through the pandemic, just like everyone else. At the start of the pandemic, I think back we were at the conference tournament, and 2 of our gift officers got jobs at Cal and UCLA. Great opportunities for them. But we went under a hiring freeze. I kind of joke that they got the last 2 jobs in college athletics, but as we've been kind of navigating this, I think part of the reason why we were set up is because of the culture we have in the Bulldog Foundation and kind of some of our hiring philosophies along the way. Obviously looking for diverse backgrounds and a variety of experiences. But that's really allow us to kind of be flexible during this time and to get people to step up and step forward into different roles. Think of one of our assistant directors, used to work for Learfield. And so now, he's used to asking people for things and used to developing some of those relationships. We've done a good job of hiring specifically to my weaknesses. So, we have some folks who are really good on the ticketing side. And so they've been able to step up and kind of assisting us with some of our larger accounts and some of those transactional elements as we're navigating that. I think back a little bit to my time at Wyoming when we wanted to really shore up the transactional elements. We really targeted somebody who'd been at a place where they respected the transaction. And then, that really set us up for success. But then similarly, I loved it when we hired a candidate from a Division II who'd worn a ton of hats and had done the marketing, had sold the tickets, and done major gifts. So I think we've done a really good job along those lines. And then lately during the pandemic, we've been really strategic with kind of how we're engaging some of that volunteer help. Pat Hill is one of our legendary coaches, and he really, really got the Fresno State brand relevant nationally, playing anybody, anywhere, anytime. And now Pat is kind of come on board and really helped us build some relationships in the community and really allows us to ask on the first visit with some of those, because Pat has the relationship and he's built up that collateral with those people. And that's a coach, quite honestly, and Pat will admit he didn't win enough and was kind of asked to move on towards the end of his tenure. But yet, that time is kind of healed, and now we've been able to get him back. And then the last thing is our board of directors. Our board of directors understands now that they need to move from that quasi-management, and especially with the loss of two major gift officers, they need to insert themselves more to help us prospect and maybe even solicit. So a great recommendation for anybody who's dealing with boards. There's a book called Boards on Fire, and it really addresses some of the issues that we all experience with volunteer boards and some of the challenges, when we're trying to deliver outcomes. And that's really helped us with our executive committee to go through, item by item and say, okay, this is how we're going to engage our board and get them to be askers for us.
Thank you. I made note of that. Boards on Fire for all you book folks. Who wants to go next? Ben?
Yeah, I could jump in. I was going to cover a little bit of how our daily operations are working. Our staff's kind of at 50% capacity. So I'm allowed to come into the office every day. But our staff is in either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, and we're rotating week by week. So it gives them a little bit of time in the office and then at home as well. I have found, and I'll be completely honest, I'm a lot better working from the office than I am at home. I think others are a lot better than I am from working at home, but I'm my concentration level is not near as good as when I'm in the office. So I'll admit that wholeheartedly. Our staff has taken on some salary reductions, a combination of some furloughs with some of those folks. And we're also in a 10% budget cut all around. So we've had a little bit of heartache through that, but we're all in it together. I think that's one thing that's a positive. We're all accepting it and moving on. Our staff's been great. I'll give them all kinds of kudos for how they've adapted and been motivated to be successful, even though there's a lot of negativity out there. One thing I will talk about a little bit, I think when you're dealing with furloughs or staff salary reductions or any of that stuff, I think you got to attack it head on. I think you got to be honest and open with your staffs. I think you got to, if they have questions, you got to answer to the best of your ability. I would say our staff has been great. They are concerned about the future. What's the future hold? I don't think any of us know what the future holds. But as long as you're open and honest with them, that's all they can ask. And they've been really good about that. So, and then, and through that, you got to maintain enthusiasm and motivation somehow. And I think that's the hard part through all of this. Everybody can get bogged down with all the negativity going on in our world right now. But as long as you can maintain a positive outlook, I think that's key in everything that we do. So kind of our daily operations have changed a little bit, but getting back in the office and getting to see some people face to face has been a nice way to get back to kind of whatever our new normal is.
Thanks, Ben. Alicia, tell us about your shop.
Yeah, so down here at Kennesaw State, I will tell you just, I think one of the grateful things that we did is we decided to cut the budget. So we were presented kind of with 2 or 3 different opportunities, the levels of what we could do. So we haven't had any hiring freezes. We're super blessed and lucky. We haven't had any, we've had a hiring freeze, but it's just if it's necessary, it gets pushed through, I should say. But no furloughs, no staff cuts, no salary reductions, everything. When we back in kind of May was presented with this opportunity, we chose to go for the budget. And we did about a 14% reduction, which was really kind of a lot in areas. And so we just got together really not only as a development staff, as an athletic department to figure out what could we cut from and what things that needed to go. Was it the events? Was it, catering for different seating, just rethinking some things. And so I think about the 3 Ps that led us to that. We planned, right? We had this plan, we had this awesome strategic plan. Then we checked the pulse, we checked what other people were doing, we checked within the department, and then we pivot. So the plan, the pulse, and the pivot are really the 3 Ps that really helped us kind of get through to where we were today, where we didn't lose any staff. We were kind of small staff anyway. We didn't have to cut anyone's salary. But then again, the day-to-day operations, we were also allowing a lot of flexibility where kind of similar to Ben, if you're coming in the office and coming in on Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, people were coming in the morning, some were coming in the afternoon until we got to the point where we were coming full time. So the other thing I will just tell you for unique times, what we have really focused on is a lot of stewardship and a lot of connection. Those specific calls that I make, I don't know about you guys, but my calendar freed up a little bit, not having to be on the road, not having to go to different events. And so I actually implemented, I just call it Touch Base Thursday. So Thursdays are really kind of my days. Monday, Tuesdays was just so meeting heavy. And by Friday, everybody was over it. But Touch Base Thursday was my day to touch base. I touch base with a donor, I touch base with a colleague, I touch base just with different people just to keep those connections. We called all of our donors when this started. We called all of our student athlete alums, and we were just touching base. And so since then, I've implemented that, and some other people have caught on. It just says, hey, Thursday is a good day just to try to catch people on the phone, catch people on a Zoom call. And that's just been really good. Just to focus not so much on the ask, but really focus on, hey, are you touching base with people? Are they hearing from you? The social media base is great and the emails are good. But again, this is a great opportunity just to pick up the phone and call that donor that hasn't been contacted in a while.
Alicia, I love that. Tell me more about Touch Base. Do you do it all day? Do you do a certain app?
Girl, I wish I could sit here and be on the phone. I could not, I wish I could tell you, yeah, I sit here and touch base with people all day. It's really maybe about the first 2 hours of my day. I get in about 8 a.m. and I kind of look at my calendar. Really, I set it up for the next week. So I set up a couple Zoom calls. I set up a couple of just real quick calls. And again, for me, I do things in 3 and 5. So it's about 5 calls and 5 emails that I can really think of. And so if I just send an email or a quick note to somebody, hey, I'm just going to pick up the phone. And some of these are messages. But if I'm really being strategic and I can plan out ahead, I'll try to jump in on a Zoom call. Hey, I got 30 minutes on a Zoom at 10:30. Hey, let's touch base. I would love to know what's going on. How's your family? Type of thing. Or I've even gotten some of my coaches involved. Says, hey, I got a donor that's interested in basketball and they were a season ticket holder. Do you mind, let's touch base and let's get them on a Zoom call. They would love to hear from you. So again, utilizing that was just really an opportunity that, from operations, I can't be on the road, but if I can just touch base with somebody real quick on a Thursday morning and spend half of my day doing that, that's really beneficial.
And that goes back to controlling the controllable. I mean, we can't control the uncontrollable, right? And I think with COVID, we're all thinking, oh my gosh, who knows what's going to happen next? But we can't control when someone makes a gift, if they decide to make a gift. What we can control is our efforts around stewardship and engagement and implementing those things so that ultimately we are setting ourselves up for success so that people do decide to convert and make a gift or what have you. So continue to do those good things that we can control, like stewarding and reaching out on a Thursday. That's awesome.
Thank you. So I know at GW we've had on our staff, we've lost a position for a restructure. So we're definitely operating with less as well. But Alicia, on the calls, I have started calling people randomly rather than set up meetings. And I found it more effective. People are picking up their phones and are so excited to talk rather than arranging, can I talk to you at this time? So I'm glad to hear that's working. So, how are you all changing your fundraising focus? I know for us at GW, we're our major gift officers, we're doing a lot more annual fund work, live bunt calls, and shifting focus there, and all of our facility projects are on hold. So I would love for you all to share with this group how your fundraising is changing. Anyone want to go first?
I can jump in. That's fine.
Okay.
To be honest with you, we're really not changing a ton of our focus. Our staff, we're in the middle of a large capital campaign that we're in year 3 of a 5-year program. So really, we have no choice but to continue because construction's ongoing right now. So we're really focused in on our major gift side of things, but also annually, because unrestricted annual dollars are crucial right now with all the budgetary constraints that we have. So we haven't changed much. Now, I will say that our MGOs and our major gift people are really helping out a lot on the annual fund side, especially around renewal time with football and basketball stuff. And then when it slows down on the annual fund side, I think all of our staff members are major gift officers. They can all go make calls. They can all make touch points with donors and try to see them as much as possible. I think one of the hard parts over the last 8 or 9 months is everybody in their spring caravan time. That's when you get to see a lot of people, and you just didn't get to see them this year. And so having as many people on the phones or Zooming or whatever we're doing nowadays to get those touch points are important. So I would say we really haven't changed our focus. We may have tweaked how we do it a little bit, but overall we're still have the same goals.
Hey, I'll jump in. Oh, sorry, Tim. Did you want to go ahead and go? Okay. I'll jump in real quick. I'll maybe give a different perspective. So I've only been here at Kennesaw State for a year, and I was drinking out the fire hose, got baptized by fire, when I got here. And like I said, we were just added football. So there's a lot of things that needed really to be focused on and narrowed in. And I really just took a lot of the opportunity the last couple months to sit with my head coaches and get their priorities so that I'm just not fundraising to be fundraising for their programs. I don't know if anybody, again, I know at different universities, you might not have that chance and that opportunity, but I just reached out because, again, my head coaches were available for once. They maybe had a couple headspaces of things that they were going through and what they were going on, but I just reached out to them and I just said, hey, this is a great time for us, in development, in revenue and ticketing. We really want to know what are your priorities for your program? Because when I'm talking with donors and when I'm having conversations, they're always asking us different things. And I want to make sure, one, I'm communicating that properly. But two, I really want to make sure, like, if we're going to move into, like Ben said, a capital campaign or facility upgrades, that is the priority that we're going to set and that we can kind of shift our focus that way. So when I sat with my head coaches, I will tell you, I also challenged them to help us. And I said, hey, I need 3 of your top alums and 3 of your parents. I need you to give me 3 names of people that we can go after. That helped our fundraising focus because, again, the portfolio is only so big. There's only so much wealth assessments and there's only so many things that you can do. But a lot of times these coaches have conversations. They know about the top alums that's in the program. They know about the parents who want their kid to have an indoor practice facility or something. And so those types of conversations was helpful for us, that it just shifted our focus instead of, hey, let's just have the budget or we need to fundraise for this. I said, let's get clear about what are the priorities, because once we, do come around to this, we need to be strategic because like Kylie said, not everyone's going to be giving a gift right now. And not everyone's going to have that opportunity. But if we're very clear and strategic about that and know what our coaches want, we can maybe start prioritizing a little bit better so that we can be really transformational and impactful.
Alicia, there's a follow-up question for you. How have you balanced the priorities of coaches versus those that your AD may have? Are they always in line?
Yeah, so they're not. That's the fun part. So a lot of this was really discovering your coaches and what is it that they are wanting for their program, right? They are the CEOs of the program. They're the head of their program. Here is what they're wanting, right? Versus the AD, and I'll even add another caveat here, what the university is wanting. You have to be able to balance all of that. And so when we got those conversations, when we're able to put that down on paper and start comparing and listening, a lot of it was similar. And a lot of it was like, how can we streamline and make sure we're going in the right directions? I think a lot of times when, again, you get this opportunity of, okay, we're going to cut the budget, we're going to cut staff, but we still need to fundraise. It's like, okay, wait, are we fundraising now for a baseball stadium? We have men's basketball locker room renovations. We have an indoor practice facility, and so we just had to communicate to the coaches. It says, as fundraisers, we don't know unless you tell us, what it is that you really need for your program, if it's operating dollars, if it's scholarship dollars, if it's COVID, those types of things. And so that was really one that actually jumped. Besides facility and upgrades, a lot of them were saying, hey, I need scholarship dollars in the next 2 years for a lot of my players to come back and give us a chance. And so, to balance what the head coaches were wanting versus what the AD was wanting, it's really kind of a married between the two and trying to sit down and compare and then also come to agreement of saying, hey, this is what's most important, which a lot right now is for our student athletes and our players to play and come back.
Yeah, I think something that's so important too is front loading, I mean, we do not know what the spring is going to look like. I mean, quite honestly, I think a lot of folks say it's going to get worse before it gets better. And at the end of the day, a lot of us here on this call, and I'm sure a lot of the registrants, we don't have the flexibility to hold off on asking for money all the time, right? So, I think front loading, thinking about when you're getting your asks out there, I think now so many of us have giving days. Or so many of us have donors that give at fiscal year end, and we want to say, yeah, let's listen to the donors' behavior, or they typically give around giving day, so let's hold off. Like, we don't have those capabilities right now. Like, we don't know what their situation at work is going to look like. So right now, well, we can, even just getting those asks out there. One way, we've really leveraged that is by working with our volunteers and getting as many people making stewardship calls, writing thank you notes, making outreach to people that matter in their world, or that they would think they matter if they pick up the phone on the other end. So that's reunion volunteers reaching out to folks in their reunion year that might be a part of their class. That's our alumni board reaching out to alums that they're close with. And we also have actually our staff coming together on December 7th, 8th, and 9th to make outreach, at calendar year end. We have an administrator that's actually going to be a part of that process. So someone that, may not always be making calls, but that's so friendly and just so awesome, and a great someone that represents Springfield College really well. So we've got to think different at this point in time. How can you get all those asks out there? Because we don't have the staff to do it most of the time. So leveraging your volunteers, leveraging your staff to say, hey, let's rally together, let's figure out some lists, and let's all commit to doing our outreach and reaching out to the 300 people you have in front of you, because we just can't afford to put that off till giving day, until fiscal year end right now.
We spent so much time over the last 6 months confirming people's annual fund donations that they wanted them to stay in this academic year. And so many of them were tied to football parking or ticketing and all those kinds of things. So everyone on our staff was responsible for that. We even had the ticket sales department kind of assist in a lot of that. And it was kind of interesting because you're making these reaffirmation of annual fund calls. You're having to raise money, raise the same dollar twice a little bit. But some good of that, it kind of helped us confirm some of the philanthropy behind our annual fund. We're kind of projecting our annual fund's going to finish 80% of what it regularly does. And so, especially with so many of the dollars being tied to ticketing and parking, we feel pretty good about some of that. But now we're going to really try to shift our gift officers and even our annual fund staff kind of back to, okay, any conversations out of this that we think can springboard into a major gift conversation. And right now, a lot of folks are hesitant to get into 5-year agreements. They want to see how the pandemic or the election is going to play out, all those kinds of things. But what conversations are they willing to have? And we've had a few more that have been willing to have planned giving conversations. And so I think we found a little bit more success with that. Ultimately, Alicia was talking about the balance of what the AD wants and what the coaches want, but some of it also comes back to what the vision of the donors are and what they're going to buy into. Not that it's completely going to dictate your priorities, but we've also had a few sport specific things maybe now come on the docket because there's a little bit of interest from some folks. And so I think we're really going to pivot in that direction, because ultimately you want your fundraising organization to be put in a position for success.
Thanks, Tim. So along those lines, where you're doing more annual fund work, have you all made any changes to performance metrics or how you evaluate gift officers? Yeah,
we've started taking a lot more phone calls, obviously, as kind of as contacts, especially if they're moving something in strategy forward. And I know it's been a challenge. We have one of our gift officers started right before the pandemic, and that's kind of been a challenge to get people to agree to Zoom meetings. On our university advancement side, a Zoom is really the main way that it can count as a visit. Well, we've tried to open that up and be a little more flexible, that phone calls can count as with some of our visit metrics, specifically if there's something intentional that's happening with that. So we've changed that metric. And then we've taken a lot of time to hopefully kind of clean up with a lot of our staff transition the portfolios. And so started looking probably more strategically at the assignment number as well, because I think sometimes we all think more the merrier in our portfolios, but that's probably not the case.
Has anyone else made any changes in performance metrics?
We haven't made any. We're just like Tim. We've adjusted to phone calls, to Zoom meetings, and making that more of a priority than the face-to-face interaction that we've had in the past. So very, very similar to what Tim said. There's a lot more phone calls and Zoom meetings that are qualifying people, determining kind of what their interest level are, where they're at right now compared to the face-to-face interaction that we really pushed prior to COVID.
Ben, do you guys have any dollars raised performance benchmarks?
We do. So it's all of our gift officers have dollars raised, visit goals, qualifying visit goals, and then we all have one large team goal each year as well. So, in fundraising, I think we get so caught up in the individual goals that we lose focus of the team goal. In fundraising, you can have a great year one year, and then maybe a lot of your proposals or your solicitations were accepted one year and didn't get them the next year. But if your overall team goal was hit, that's kind of the most important part. So we're in this as a team. So I think, we do have a large team goal as well.
That's probably the one group of people outside of I got a first grade daughter and I feel bad that she's got to be on Zoom. Well, I feel bad for all the new gift officers out there, because if they have a dollars raised, that's a tough thing. I mean, just in this environment, we all know how hard it is sometimes for people just to take our calls, let alone be willing to set up a Zoom cold.
Yeah, and as far as new strategies, I mean, we so often are getting new prospects, right, put in our portfolios. And now it's especially tough because we might not be able to get in front of that person before soliciting that gift or as we solicit that gift. So I think taking opportunities to look at some of the platforms that are out there. We recently invested in the ThankView platform. I know a few people on this call personally who have that platform, where now this allows for gift officers to record their video, get it out, and at the end of the day, get your face in front of someone. So it's not just you making a phone call and leaving a voicemail or writing a handwritten note, all of those things. Tie that to something like ThankView. I think adding more metrics in like that for your staff, where they're really getting their face in front of these people that, and having that personalization aspect of it all, that's so hard to do. Sometimes if you can't get in front of someone, but leveraging something like ThankView is really that opportunity. So this Thanksgiving, we'll have all of our gift officers taking advantage of creating these personal videos for their prospects, getting these out. Hi, Ben, it's Kylie from Springfield College. Just wanted to say hi. Thank you so much for all you do. Hopefully you'll have a great Thanksgiving. I know things are challenging right now, but we're great to have you a part of our community. That adds a lot, opposed to, maybe Ben picking up a phone call, hey, leaving a voicemail, so just challenging your staff to do more things like that. Or when there's a slew of appeals going out, pull those out that are staff assigned and have those people handwrite a note at the bottom of it. Right? What little things can we do to help ourselves, to set ourselves up for success as we look to really connect with our donors?
Thanks, Kylie. A question we got, and we had talked about this as a group. How are you leveraging other departments to help you in these tough times and being short staffed? Are you working with any other facilities, external relations?
Well, I'll jump in. I know one of my mantras is you'd be surprised what a quarter zip or some gear can get done for you across campus, because they don't always get issued the same stuff we do. 2 years ago when we got to Fresno State, we really wanted to build an army with our fundraising organization, and whether that was in our community or even across campus. And when we lost our associate AD to Cal back in March, one of the things that he had taken on was management of the gift officers and management of a lot of those metrics. And so, pulling the reports on advance, because that's where we track all of our kind of major gift contacts. But over the summer, Central Advancement was transitioning the advanced system or upgrading it. And, like I said, with the quarter zip, was able to get Central Advancement to run our contact reports along with theirs. So when they run all the central development gift officer and calculate and tabulate everything. They've included us in the same process, which has really helped me because now I don't have to do some of that leg work. Adam, you should have figured that out before, and then you wouldn't have had to do all that leg work. But it's been a lot of fun from that side because now we're collaborating more with their plan giving officer as an example, because they've seen us as a lot of warm leads for plan giving. So we've had a pretty good relationship with them. And then kind of another one that I'd encourage everybody to think of is collaborating with your multimedia rights holders sometimes from the donor space. I've worked with two great GMs, one here at Fresno State and before at Wyoming, and they really appreciated some of the stewardship we provided for donors at kind of that legacy giving, or, that giving society, right? 10,000, 25,000, whatever that is for your university. We provided such great stewardship and event opportunities and relationship with, kind of a student athlete assignment that a lot of times that marketing partner kind of wanted that element. They wanted that human connection point as a part of their partnership. And so they were joining our major giving societies, and Learfield liked it because of the stewardship we were providing and the relationship we were providing on the institution side. And so those would be kind of the two biggest areas that I think when you can kind of reach across the aisle, so to speak, you can have a lot of success.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick and tell you our alumni relations have been clutch for us. I joked, I think the other day with the panelists and told them we went on like a tear in October. We hosted 15 former student athlete virtual reunions. I don't recommend anybody to ever do that again. Just do one and be done. But we just had not touched base with our former student athletes in a really long time, really, really long time. And so again, after we chose to reach out to our alums and donors of the program, we just really said, have coaches, even our new coaching staffs, have they been in contact with our former student athletes? And so we took the whole month of October. We hosted about 15, 16 of them. Alumni helped track people down, helped us get the names and emails, and it was actually super beneficial. A lot of them had just said, and that just really challenged me too, when we were on the virtual Zoom calls with the current coaching staff, that a lot of them, since they graduated from Kennesaw State, hadn't got a chance to come back, or they hadn't heard really from anybody once they graduated. Again, being a smaller institution, and Kennesaw State was a commuter school, or it was a D2 school, and then now we're a Division I school. We just added football. So all this transition. And again, when you're adding different pieces, and it was just really awesome. And our coaches are just really amazing that I told them I just need 30 minutes. I just need it after 6 o'clock. And they got on the call and they really listened to our former student athletes. And so reaching across those aisles of trying to combine with our alumni relations, talking to the foundation and hosting these reunions have gotten our former alums re-engaged. We wish we could host them for homecoming. But it was just a great opportunity to hear them, to touch base with them, and to also just hear the impact. We had the national champion Division II basketball team on, and they were like, "We're coming back. We haven't had a chance to, and when you go away, but this is the first opportunity that we have a chance to meet our new coach, and we're loving everything." So that was awesome to sit in that and hear that. So I definitely challenge y'all to, if you haven't, former student athletes are probably, again, your best warm lead ever, that they love the program. And some of them, if it's a new coaching staff or transitions has happened, is uncomfortable, maybe a little bit, but sit in that and let them engage with that new coaching staff if they have the time for 30 minutes to just say, "Hey, I just want to meet you and tell you I played here." That's honestly what they want to do. Is my record still up there? Oh, okay. Just make me that's really what the conversation was about. And it was just fun. And they felt good, that Kennesaw State reached back out and they cared about them. So it was really good to have that.
All right, I'm going to ask one of the questions from the chat. With lots of teams not playing across the country, how are you engaging parents for annual and major gifts?
I'm not sure if that question.
We deal with parents quite a lot at GW, and whenever I have a conversation, they said, "Well, are we playing? When are we playing?" So I'll let you all go ahead and answer.
Yeah, I will tell you, first things that I usually always do, compliance is my best friend. So you have to be careful and for what you're trying to do with parents of student athletes and parents of students in general, and then parents of students who are trying to get to the team. There's different categories, the spectrum there, of how you're engaging them for annual and major gifts. A lot of different times that I will tell you, like I was telling you earlier, I utilize my coaches to just give me 3 names of parents that I could really steward, that whose child either plays here, came to school here, they love it here, that we could really utilize to just start on an annual basis of giving and just get them in the membership, get them part of the Owls Fund, get them season tickets. There's a life cycle that I know everyone knows about to just start them on. But we are actually not afraid to present to them. And I have done this before at other institutions. When I was at University of Tennessee and LSU, we will walk our parents through different facilities, and say, here's our current facilities. And then when you go on the road, pay attention to what other facilities, what there is. And this is what we're trying to get to. Painting that picture and story is so important, especially for parents, to say, this is what we want to have here. And with your help and with your impact, this is what we could do. And so in the middle of them not playing, we get them really thinking about future and not so much of what's going on right now. And I'll be honest, it's transparency and honesty, because right now you cannot talk around parents about what's really going on. You have to be honest, and you have to be realistic and say, this is about 1 or 2 years out, but here's where we are and here's what we're trying to do. And we just need your support. And I think a lot of people understand and appreciate that.
Anyone else doing any work with parents? I know for us at GW, we rely heavily on parents. So it is this constant communication with them right now. And we've gotten some really nice gifts from parents. So we are still continuing to ask parents.
Yeah, I think not being scared, not being scared, right? Being transparent, as Alicia was saying, and going out there and continuing to do the work we do with our parents. At the end of the day, we're doing our absolute best to still provide that experience. Just because the student athletes aren't competing doesn't mean they're not still benefiting from being a part of the team and being part of athletics at our institutions. So we can be upfront and honest, because sports will go on eventually, right? At the end of the day, athletics teams will compete in some way, shape, or form. And then those resources are going to be necessary to provide them with that top tier experience. So let's continue to just be transparent, call it the way it is, and let them know that we'll need their help when the time comes.
Jen, I could jump in a little bit with parents. We don't do a very good job with our parents clubs. We use our coaches quite a bit. They kind of relay some information to us when parents are interested in supporting. I will say, just like what Alicia said earlier, kids have a pretty good idea about facilities because they've gone through the recruiting process, and seen what others have, and they'll pick West Virginia or another school for certain reasons, but they understand it and they relay that to their parents, and their parents get to see it as well. So we've used that to our advantage as well, that they may have more information than we do in some of the facility stuff that we have. So, but I can say that we could use our parents better. But for the most part, our coaches are kind of our link to our student athletes and then to their parents.
Okay, another question. Started in my current position in August, new school, a new area. How would you advise someone to get to know your alumni and donors when you can't meet them at games or events this semester due to COVID?
Well, like I said earlier, this is a group I feel you're in a tough spot. But one thing, and I'm going to have a lot of people roll their eyes at me that are watching this webinar that worked for me in the past. But the first thing, get a cell phone with the local area code of the people you're calling. Because I know I give our gift officers a hard time. Oh, they didn't answer my Pennsylvania number or something, and I'm well, I wouldn't have answered it. So if they see that local number, maybe there's a better shot at least catching them on the phone, and just keep trying and trying with anybody that you do have some kind of connection with, whether it be one of your key constituents that you do have a relationship or who is engaged with you. Utilize their help. Whether it be with referrals or maybe even them, making that introduction. And then probably the second thing, any of your leadership, whether it be in your fundraising department, your athletic department, or in the university, of maybe them making that initial reach out via email and having you on the email as well and saying, hey, meet one of our new hires. Oh, they're doing a great job. Hey, would you be willing to carve out 10 or 15 minutes to visit with them over the phone or virtually, or, however you feel comfortable? I guess that's probably the lines I'd go down.
Hey, so I'm actually the queen of being an outsider and starting new jobs. Most people in my previous years, so I'm from Illinois and I went to Alabama A&M. So every school I've been at, I'm not an alum. I'm always new. I still have my Illinois cell phone. So Tim, you're going to hate me for that. But I will tell you, one of the things that I always do when I get to a new institution, a new program, just to try to either get meetings or get to know alums, I always just kind of one cold call, but two, I said, hey, tell me about your first interaction or tell me about your greatest memory of this department and this story. Like, hey, I just want to touch base with you. I want to connect with you and I want to know more about how you got involved with Kennesaw State. Tell me, I want to know everything there is. And I'm very much honest and upfront with people that I did not go to school here. I'm not a native Georgian. I'm not even from the South. I'm a Midwesterner at heart, but what brought me to this school is probably one of your memories or one of the things that just really touched your heart. And I want to hear about it. I want to know about that. So you got 30 minutes to really tell me about that. And so it's not so much of a meeting. It's not so much of an ask. It's just, hey, I'm reaching out to people that can tell me, and you were one of the ones that can tell me just about Kennesaw State and how we got here. Or they can tell me about Fresno State. How did we get here? What is your greatest memory? How you got involved? And people love storytelling. One, and two, the second thing about that, a lot of different times is people love just telling you, going back down the memory lane and bringing you in the fold and being like, oh, we got to get you all the black and gold in the world. We have to get you so many different things. And so that I have found super successful. And thank God for Google and Google Voice, because they also hide my number when I call. Like I said, I still have my same cell phone number that I've had since high school, but thank God for Google Voice of reaching out and trying to get with people.
Yeah, I think especially in this business, just making sure that first communication is about engagement. It's about getting to know someone. It's about really, really getting to know someone. People are not stupid, right? They know when we're reaching out to ask them for money but at the end of the day, it will do you wonders. It will set you up for success if your first communication is about getting to know someone because you know that they're connected to your institution and you want to learn more and build your story through them. So keep that in mind as you look to get that first communication out, that you're just looking to engage, you're looking to meet people. The money will come, but so trust yourself and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward with those people.
Kylie, while we're still going, there's a specific question for you. In a normal year, what does your annual fund calendar look like for each sport, the department as a whole, number of type of outreach per sport, and how has it changed this year?
I can send anyone our communications calendar, so connect with me. You can always reach out to me in my email, if you want to go back and forth on, specifics, but we always try to, certainly things look different this year, right? But we do try to get that team solicitation out. We do try to get some sort of communication out from our athletic director from a solicitation standpoint. Typically for us, that comes at fiscal year end. But in the meantime, there's a lot of stewardship activity happening. We have teams that send out all of our programs do their best to send out 3 newsletters that talk about what their teams are up to, what their student athletes are up to, to try to really engage with their alumni population. We do something called the Friends and Family Letters, which helps us bring in additional revenue, where we have student athletes each bring in 10 to 15 addresses of friends or family members who would want to support their team. And that looks like an aunt, it looks like an uncle, grandparents, it looks like coaches, it looks like high school athletic directors, people that they know really care about them. And that's one of the doing more with less strategies, right? Like, I know not every probably there's some folks on this call saying that's crazy, but it brings in an additional, $20,000 to $30,000 for our athletics programs, whether it's the annual fund or these specific teams, which it usually is these specific teams, right? Between, 1,000 and 5,000, per team. So it's just a great additional outreach strategy for us. And then we have a brochure that goes out within all of that happening, that really targets alumni donor stories to try to inspire folks to give back. Athletics is involved in our giving day as we think ahead to the spring, and of course a big fiscal year end push. So we try to really be strategic with our outreach as it relates to athletics in general, and as it relates to our institution at large. We work very closely, and I think a lot of that has to do with me, right, working in central development, but making sure that when we send an athletic solicitation, it's not right on the heels of a college appeal. It's not right before an appeal for the college, right? So that's just really working together with our communications team, making sure that we're putting our best foot forward. But please reach out to me if you're ever interested in materials, communications, calendar, things like that. I'm happy to provide those resources.
Thank you. All right, another question. When is the right time to include the coaches in a call with a prospective donor?
It depends on how crazy the coach is and how prima donna they are. I'll just state the obvious. I'll defer to some other people. I'll maybe wait to hold my answer, but if your coach is crazy, it just depends on top of that. Tim, what do you got?
Well, as a former basketball coach, I'm kind of offended by that, but
Listen, it's honest.
I would never be a prima donna, okay? But maybe just a little bit. I think it goes back to putting yourself in a position to be successful. So that may depend on the donor, and it may depend on the coach. There are certain coaches, when dealing with alums, they maybe didn't have the best relationship with them. And so going back, if you're somebody new and you're trying to leverage somebody else's connection or relationship, maybe you include that coach earlier. And then, but I think the biggest thing is make sure you're upfront and honest with the coach about what stage they want to be included in. Because I can tell you at some levels with some coaches, they don't want to be involved until it's a 7-figure donor. Well, then don't include them on some of that other stuff. Whereas other ones, they're more external and they want to be out, maybe prospecting people and meeting the community. And I'll tell you, if that coach doesn't have buy-in on what step that they're participating in, it's not probably going to be great because they're not going to be the most engaged or into it, because they're participating in something they don't really want to be there for. But have that open and honest communication with the coach. And like right now, our football coach here is incredible. He's incredibly efficient with his communication, especially via text. And so, I mean, he likes giving his cell phone out to people, and sometimes it kind of makes me cringe. But hey, then I get all these messages from donors of, "Oh, coach wished me a happy birthday," or "he did this," and so that's where our leadership is at, in particular with our football program, and that's been great. It's been great for our organization.
Yeah, and I want to maybe just add there for a second, Jen, is one thing you really need to do a good job of, and this is just being an admin in general, being in athletics, you really need to know your staff and know when is the right time. And that's why I said I joke about that, about who's crazy, who's the prima donna. But I'll be honest with you, I've probably been at so many different universities that the first thing I do is I just get to know my staff. I get to know my coaching staff. Regardless of if they have 5 minutes for me, if I'm just showing up at practice, or if I just stop and sit in their office for 10 minutes and say, "Hey, tell me about you." Again, me being a fundraiser and me going out to ask people, I really want to make sure of what I'm asking and who is it that is over the program of what I'm asking for. Because a lot of times my donors, literally, they just want to know, how's the coach is doing? What is his plans? They just always go back and ask what they were doing a lot of times. And so if I have that relationship with the donor before I try to involve the coach, again, that's my job to try to intercede and work on some of that. But I would just encourage y'all out there that this is maybe a good time or a bad time, but every coach has 20 minutes to talk with any fundraiser, anybody that's bringing in revenue to their program. Anytime you say, "Hey coach, I'm trying to get you 6 figures. You got 10 minutes? Oh yeah, I got time to talk with you about that. Or I got $3,000 coming down the pipeline. Can you sit and talk with me?" please just take this opportunity to get to know them and see when is the right time with the prospective donor, because there's so many different, there's not a blanket answer for when to bring the AD in, when to bring the coach in. Maybe it's an assistant coach that has better, relationship and better skills to talk with them. So you just really need to get to know your staff enough, because if you're just sitting in your office all day, and I'll be guilty of that, oh, I'm just making calls to donors, or I'm just talking, with this. Part of what our job and responsibility is to go talk to these programs and go talk to the coaches and get them engaged and to know. You can't necessarily sell ice to an Eskimo without finding out what it is that they really, really need. Because I'm not going to be out here selling a locker room renovation when now he needs scholarship dollars. So really take that time and step outside your comfort zone and get to know them. I promise you, as Tim said, might be a prima donna. He might literally only have 5 minutes and he might be doing 3 different things. But if you come to a coach and just say, hey, I'm trying to get money for your program, will you sit with me and talk with me so I can go back and relate that to a donor? They'll be more than welcome to sit down with you.
I think it can be helpful too, right? Like reaching out to that coach just to know, is there anything that I'm going to be surprised about when I go to talk to this donor, right? I can thankfully count on one hand the amount of times I've, sat myself in front of someone and had them tell me something that I wasn't, really, really upset that I didn't know prior to, but that does happen. So even just sending the coach a quick email or picking up the phone just to say, hey, I'm thinking about reaching out to so-and-so or going to see so-and-so. Any feedback on this person, anything you can let me know beforehand. I've had coaches say to me, hey, we just went through this with this same person. Now they're coming to you trying to do the same runaround that they just did with me and our athletic director, right? So at the end of the day, don't set yourself up for failure. Getting out, talking to that coach early can often provide you with information that you wouldn't necessarily have otherwise.
One thing I'll add on that as well is that I think you got to prep your coaches for those meetings. This can't be the first time they interact with the donor. You've got to send them text to tell them it's the donor's birthday, or to introduce them at an event where there's a large amount of people there. They feel a little bit more comfortable at it. You can't go into your first meeting with the coach's first meeting with the donor and ask him for a gift. In my opinion, I think you're setting the coach up for failure as well. I think you got to make them, just like a development officer would do. The coach has got to build a relationship with them, and if the coach has a good relationship with the donor, 9 times out of 10 you're going to walk out of there with a gift, because they really want to. It's easy to tell me no for something. It's a lot harder to tell Bob Huggins or one of our coaches no. So you're ammoing yourself with a lot of good content when you walk in with the coach and he already has a personal relationship with them. So start early when the coach is there, and start building those relationships with a lot of the people that you want to solicit.
Great. So our next question is, how can student athlete development help support your efforts? I know we work a lot with our student athlete development in terms of programming for our student athletes. We get our alums and donors involved in those, and they are awesome. They come to us and say, who do you want us to put on this panel? Are you working with somebody on a gift? Are you trying to build a relationship? And so I know we use them in that way, but work with them in that way. Anybody else want to share?
Yeah, we use them a lot as well. And we use it for more storytelling. What's the life in our student athlete? What are they going through day to day? Because that stuff in the development world, we don't get to see. One thing that it kind of stinks about the development side of things, you're not around the student athletes on a day-to-day basis. So you don't get to see everything that they're going through. They're up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do study hall or workouts, and then they go to class and they have practice and all the different things that they do. So we do a lot of storytelling with them, and they're the first people that can give us the content that we want to kind of tell that story, because we're all about the student athlete experience. So we want them to have a great experience while they're on campus. And for us to do that, we have to go out and get the funds to do that, but we have to educate our donors on what the life is like in our student athlete's shoes.
Yeah, I'll piggyback or just add to that actually with student athlete development, this is at a former institution. We just did a thank you campaign, not so much of a thank-a-thon, but so the season of Thanksgiving is coming up, and actually we do it here where we send our donors thankful cards to say thanking them for their support. But at my previous institution, we kind of worked with student athlete development, and we actually got them to write notes to an actual handwritten note. Because again, in this day and age, they're quick on the text, they're quick on the emails, but a lot of them don't know how to write a handwritten note. And again, to a lot of our donors, they appreciate that. They love handwritten notes, and they love seeing, hey, I'm Amari Robinson, number 22, seeing the actual jersey number and the player that actually wrote them something. And it's just a thank you note. And again, I can write notes all day. Ben could probably write notes all day. Jen, you could too, but it's nothing like getting that from an actual student athlete with the jersey number, having that signed. And so we really utilize student athlete development to say, hey, can we just do a little bit of teaching them how to write a handwritten note and how to handwritten, and then again, they send it to our donors. And it actually turns out really well for us because it's a note to them, but it's also teaching them about the benefits of sitting down and crafting a note. And it's just funny because a lot of them are like, do you really have to write this? Or my handwriting is terrible. I need to work on, so for them, it's a skill set of, I really need to work on my handwritten notes. This is what you do when you reach out to people. That goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think they can be great for, we work a lot with we've been doing more, especially lately, just with our student athlete development team or student athlete leadership team. So that's our version of SAC at Springfield College, student athlete leadership team. We call it SALT. I think, the student athletes can be great, for testimonials, for writing thank you notes, all of that. Where we really leverage them, especially this past year, is with peer-to-peer fundraising amongst other student athletes. At the end of the day, we have our giving day in the spring. We want our student athletes to give back. And it's one thing for me to show up at a SALT meeting and say, hey, giving day's around the corner. Hopefully you all give. You're on our SALT board, board, whatever. But to have them understand the value of giving day and how it ultimately helps athletics and ultimately provides them with a great experience and their teammates with a great experience and future student athletes with a great experience, for them to really understand that and value it and then go out and share that with their peers. We actually, our student giving last year on Giving Day, I think increased by something crazy like 305%. And 99.9% of that work was because of our athletics teams on Giving Day. So to have that group really go out and spread the good word to their teams, and to other captains and to other leaders in athletics, I mean, that can really help you because it's not just you speaking to them. It's not just the AD. It's not just the coach. It's their peers. And if their peers are buying into it, then they're buying into it. So that's just another opportunity to leverage that group is through peer-to-peer fundraising as well.
Kylie, going back to your friends and family campaigns that you do, we got a question. Does Springfield get pushback from data services in creating donor records for non-constituents, like the athlete's high school athletic director or aunt, grandpa?
Yeah. No, we don't get, I don't mean to say no, we actually don't. We don't get pushback from advancement services about creating new records because at the end of the day, they will hopefully continue to support once they're in our network, at least for those 4 years or the 2 years of a junior sending or that year if a senior is sending. And, if they really love us, maybe they'll give the following 2 years. But once they haven't given for 6 or more years, they're already out of our solicitation strategy. So they're not in there for too long unless they continue to give. Really where the pushback sometimes comes, and I wouldn't call it pushback, but it's our coaches saying, is this someone that's now going to get a solicitation from the college at large, opposed to like my athletic program if they're in the network? And primarily we do go back and look and say, who is in this cohort now that we've got these new addresses coming in, who's already being solicited through athletics, who we don't need to worry about. So I will kind of peel those out to say, this person's already gotten something from athletics because this student athlete brought them in last year. It is some handwork on my end, but it's not too bad. It's just looking back at the donors to that program and really identifying who's already in our cohort and who's already being solicited for that program. But no, we don't get pushed back. At the end of the day, a donor is a donor, right? We're trying to get participation. So sometimes it requires a little bit more work, but at the end of the day, we think it's worth it.
Thank you. So going back to parents, a question from the group is, what about work with the former parents? Is that a priority now? I know we just got a really nice gift from a former parent that was a principal gift level person, and they just made another gift. So we do keep those folks in mind at GW, but let the group answer.
Yeah, similar with any other strategies around prospects. If they've been previous donors and they're prospected to give more, we're definitely engaging them. And I think honestly, the parents, they understand the financial challenges that all of our institutions are going through. It's very well public, very well documented. And so they're kind of willing to maybe step up because they want their son or daughter to have that, experience. Or if they're an alum, a parent of an alum, they want those current young people to have the same great experience that maybe their child had.
Oh, go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just going to say, in addition to that, a lot of parents don't want to make a gift while their kids are in school. I think that we come across that a lot here, that they just don't want, they don't want that impact on their kids, because kids see, what names are on different rooms or what's endowed and stuff like that. So they know. I do think it's a really good time once their kids graduate to go after the former parents, because I think if their kids had a good experience here, then why wouldn't you give back to the school that your kid had such a great experience at?
Yeah, and I'll throw a term out here that we use here is a family legacy. So when you're talking with former parents, because again, a lot of times the student athlete, maybe they just got done playing or they're not really in that major gift mood, they don't have a lot of money, but the parents do. I really start talking with a lot of former parents just about the family legacy, trying to involve the whole family. Like, hey, what about the Baldwin family gift, or what about this and that? So it not only includes the parents, but it also includes the student athlete that played up under them, and then they can have really their letters or the years that they played there. So it was really given on behalf of them for their student athlete. So think about that. That's kind of how I navigate with former parents, kind of similar to what Ben and Tim said. A lot of them don't want to give while the child is there, but they'll give after the fact. And so the best way that I have seen proposal is always just, what about a family gift, something on behalf of the family to do something. And it can be anything, but it's just having that family name there that says my child played here, played this sport, and this is the number of years.
I think it's always worth our while to try, a past parent solicitation to current parents, a past parent donor solicitation to current parents, to say your student athlete is going to leave this institution better, leave this institution with these skills that just will blow your mind, right? So that can be really powerful too, to have a past parent step up and say, I'm still donating. And this was the experience that my student athlete had on this campus. Just as these parents look ahead, to the next 4 years, that can be really scary to just be thinking, how is this all going to go? But to have a past parent really step up and provide some insight to that experience, could be really great. And another thing that we like to think about at SC is, who are the past parent donors' children, their student now, who's now an alum of the institution, who grew up watching their parent be a philanthropist and be supporting other organizations, their institution. They're probably going to be your alums that step up and become supporters later on in life. So keep that in mind as well. When you're thinking about, your past parents, who are their students who are now alums of your institution, and what does their giving look like?
Great. Another question from the group. What do your major gift numbers look like currently this year? What's COVID's impact on your major gifts, and have things picked up?
Well, I'll go back a little bit to last year. I mean, with how bad the third and fourth quarter were because of COVID, we were fortunate to hit our fundraising goal last year, and that's only because of a $1.5 million estate gift. And so if it weren't for that, it wouldn't have looked great. This year, very few people were willing to kind of have some of those conversations on a 5-year level, because they didn't even know what the next 5 weeks look like. And institutionally, we had some facility improvements on the docket. We'd raised $10 million prior to the pandemic, and kind of halfway towards our goal. But then now we're kind of even in a holding pattern institutionally, because some of those other funding mechanisms are in question now coming out of COVID. And so not really looking at a lot from a 5-year perspective. So not looking, too huge, mostly dependent just on the annual fund for this year.
From our side, we were very similar. We had a one large gift that kind of really helped us at the end of before the end of the fiscal year last year to not quite hit our goal, but we were within $500,000 of our goal, and we felt pretty good about it going through the COVID situation. But it has been a struggle a little bit through this first quarter and into the second quarter of this giving cycle. Our giving year, or our fiscal year, we're on a fiscal year July 1 to June 30. and it has been a little bit of struggle. So I think we can continue to preach connectivity, be active, talk to those supporters. A lot of them don't want to give till they give face to face, and I can understand that. I actually prefer that as well, but you can get them ready. So when you're given the green light to go out, because it's going to happen at some point, you'll be ready, you'll be armed, ready to go. So we actually got lucky. We're able to travel within the state now. And in some situations, given the approval, we can travel outside the state. But that just happened recently. But with that happening, our major gift officers had a plan and had a lot of actions in, and had a lot of communication with the donors that they knew that were ready to support, to have that ask ready when they were ready to go out and meet with them face to face.
Okay, another question from the group. What advice do you have for someone who wants to pursue a career in development?
Do it.
Don't everyone jump at once.
Yeah. No, I would say jump in, be all in. And if you ever change your mind, it's not that big of a deal, but just be all in with where you're at and what you're trying to do. And it's incredibly fulfilling. I mean, how lucky we all are to be in college athletics. And now selfishly, one of the best things I have going is my kids get to grow up around athletics. And some of my favorite moments as a dad is my kids getting autographs from the women's basketball team after the game, or giving a wrestler knuckles as they come off the mat. It's awesome. So best of luck. And whoever wrote that question, if you need anything, or anybody else, don't hesitate to reach out and talk through it.
Tim, I will be reaching out to you then. Is that the solicitation for, does that include the panelists too?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't make fun of my coaching background, okay?
Okay. Hey, I'm just saying, listen, this is the truth about fundraising. But that was actually what I was going to say is, if you're thinking about getting into development, let me tell you, you need to love people. You need to love what you do, but you need to also just have a passion for being a storyteller. I tell people all the time, I'm a talker, and some people aren't talkers. Some people are just kind of shaking hands and keep going on. But the best thing about development a lot of times is you have to tell the story. You have to be the brand. You have to be what the coach is trying to communicate, what the AD is trying to communicate, what the student athletes trying to communicate. Because a lot of times when the phone rings, they get a gift officer, right? They get the fundraiser, they get the ticket office. And so anybody that wants to be in development, make sure that you just love people. I don't know. I think I've become sort of this outgoing but ingoing person where I'm at the events and I'm talking. Then when I get home, I'm like, whew, that was a lot, because you give a lot of yourself. You give a lot of just meeting and greeting people and hearing stories. And so you just really need to make sure that you love that, because again, as I challenged anybody on this call, you can't just sit in your office all day and make calls. You're going to have to eventually get out there on the road. You're going to have to eventually get out there and meet these coaches, regardless of how crazy Tim can be, how prima donna they are. And again, you can't just be afraid of someone telling you no a lot of times. And again, that just challenges you to get better in this situation. And so I love talking with people and I love hearing their stories. I'm a Midwesterner at heart, and I went to HBCU. And so I love just hearing how people came across Kennesaw State, or when I was at University of Tennessee or LSU. Like, I wasn't born into any of this. And so the 30-minute stories from that donor who's been a part of this program since beginning to end, I literally just listen with the ear and love talking with them. And so I would just tell you, if you want to get into development, we are not all about the fun and the parties. That's part of it. That's a little bit part of it, but you just really need to love people enough that your donors care a lot about it.
Alicia, you said a really good thing about the no too. Like, don't get down when people tell you no. We talk about it as a staff. If we're not getting told no, we're not doing our job. It means we're not asking enough. And then, not being a part of the party. If you love tailgating, don't work in development, because we can't do that. And then kind of a piece of advice that I had passed on to me early on was, relationship building with donors, no doubt about it, but don't try to live their life. We're in a different deal. And so I think if you can kind of compartmentalize those things, you'll be set up for success.
So to go off of that, another question, thoughts on transitioning from an internal area such as academic services to external?
I mean, I could jump in here. I mean, if that's your passion, I think you got to run with it. In development's a fun area to go into. You get to meet so many different people. You get to see how there's so many different ways people have been successful. And there's so many different reasons why they give back to their institution. So that's what makes it fun for me. There's so many different reasons to why people give. So going from an internal role to an external role, I think you really really need to think about that and make sure that's the area you want to go into. I think one thing about the external role is you have to be available, and I'm sure you have to do it in the internal role as well with your student athletes, but your donors don't care what time of day it is or what day of the week it is or anything. The cell phone is way overused by our donor bases, and they want answers and they want you to be available to them. And I know it's like that on the internal side as well. But you have a lot of people to keep happy and to make happy. And I think it's important to realize that. But I think if your heart's in it, you follow your heart and run after it, because it is a great field to be in. I've met some of my very best friends I've met through the development process and meeting different people at different schools. And I rely on them to steal ideas. You know, the one thing that's great about development, we'll meet as a Big 12 every now and then. And if the University of Iowa State University has a great idea, well, I can steal that idea because we're not going through the same constituent pool. So we have a lot of great people in this industry, and I would definitely talk to those people at the school that you're at on the internal side and start volunteering or getting involved on the external side just to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
Coaches don't share out of bounds plays, but development officers, we all trade secrets. So that's been great. Sorry, Kylie.
Oh, you're fine, Tim. No, that's a great point. You know, and I think what I love most about this business, and I would consider myself to be a young professional in this business, but someone who loves it more than anything, is we didn't just happen upon this webinar, Ben, Alicia, Tim, and I. You know, we have, you know, networked with folks like Jason, you know, with folks like Jen, you know, to ultimately get to know, you know, other folks in this industry. I mean, so first things first, you know, have a, you know, NAD membership, you know, an NACTA membership, and go to the conventions that hopefully we'll have in the future, if you can, and ultimately sit in on these webinars. And after you do, follow up with the folks and ask questions, you know, ask for advice. I think none of us know everything, but all of us know something. You know, at the end of the day, you never look silly. You know, I even have younger folks than me, you know, reach out and say, you know, I don't mean to sound silly or stupid when I'm asking this. No question is silly or stupid, because we're all learning and trying to be better and better ourselves and create relationships and network. And, you know, I know a whole group of people who Ben doesn't know, who Tim doesn't know, and Alicia knows folks that Ben doesn't know, and we can all help each other at the end of the day. And so, you know, just trust that process and really leverage the network that we have here. And that includes, you know, for all you women out there and men, women leaders in college sports with Patty P, you know, connect with those folks and put your energy in there, because you're going to get some great friends out of it and some real nice ideas for your shop.
All right, we got one more question from the audience. For the panel members with a dotted line reporting responsibility, has the pandemic increased inter-office/department tension?
From our side, it really hasn't. To be honest with you, we've probably communicated better through COVID, because it's so much easier to jump on a Zoom call rather than to go across campus and meet with somebody or whatever. So whether it was meeting with athletics or meeting with our foundation folks, for me, I feel like I'm more informed because we're meeting regularly. It's a lot easier to jump on a conference call or a Zoom call. In fact, I probably think that even when we're out of COVID, it will continue to do stuff like this, because it makes it a lot easier. Makes it easier for you to juggle several different things in your office if you can do it. So I think that our communication, even within our staff and just the athletic development side, has increased because of the easy ways to communicate nowadays.
Thanks, Ben. So we only have 5 minutes left, and I know a lot of people want to get back to the Masters, which started today. So the last question for the good of the group: how do you maintain motivation doing more with less? And give us another positive nugget if you have one on that.
I can go. I mean, I think, you know, it's a very simple concept, but you have to have fun. If you're not having fun with what you do, then you need to find something else to do. And that's just what it comes down to. And you got to do that. It's on leaders to make sure their staffs are having a good time. I think Tim and Alicia and Kylie all touched on it earlier. You know, you got to celebrate the success, but also be with them when they fail, because we're all going to fail. You know, it's going to happen in life. Life's a bunch of failures that you get to celebrate the small successes in life. But and having fun in the workplace. You know, some of the things that we're trying to do is doing some virtual happy hours with our staffs to get to see them outside the workplace. One thing that we used to do that we're bringing back, and I told the panel this before, we used to have a closeout song. So anytime you close a gift, you're gonna get a song you get to play on the staff. So everybody will ask what my closeout song was. My song was all about the Benjamins. So I don't know if you're that old school tune, but that was my jam back in the day, and we're going to continue to do that. So you got to have fun. Let's enjoy what we do. You can get bogged down in the negativity right now, but enjoy the people you work with and have fun with it.
Jason, start the NAD playlist. Tim had a song earlier. Jen had a song. I mean, start the NAD playlist. That needs to happen, okay? That needs to really happen.
Still waiting on those donations.
We're in the middle of a pandemic, Jason. We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, Ben mentioned the virtual happy hour, and a couple of times we've been able to, based on our local guidelines, been able to meet for safely for an in-person happy hour. So hopefully that's helped maintain a little bit of motivation. And quite honestly, it's something I probably have to do a better job of, just because we have a shell of a staff that's working here, and then some that are working remotely, and it's easier to stay connected with those ones that are here, and probably need to do a better job of folks that are having to work remotely. But I think one thing about maintaining motivation, and I've talked a lot about this, is going back to why we're in this industry. What's our end game? Why are we doing what we're doing? Because the last 6 months, we've probably developed some habits, whether it be like not traveling as much, and some of those things that not to get complacent or anything like that, we need to come out of this thing. We need to come out of it as an industry and kind of refuse maybe to accept some of those new normals. And so, everybody buckle up, get those Marriott points, back going, because we need to get back on the road and get back to work a little bit.
I'll go. So mine is simple. When I was thinking about this question about motivation, and honestly, it's just stop complaining and start being grateful. A lot of times people are just complaining about the adversity, and we've had cuts, we've had furloughs. And again, I'm very sensitive to what's going on in our industry and what's going on with our student athletes. But truth be told, I don't think anybody in athletics, I don't think we signed up to get participation trophies, right? We signed up to be great. We signed up to be pushed. We signed up to just go after the championship. And so a lot of times, and I just reread the Energy Bus for probably like the 50th time, but the Energy Bus is one of those things that got me going. But it just hit me. I was like, you know what? Just stop complaining and start being grateful for the adversity. This is going to make me better. This is going to build character in me. This is going to make me a better fundraiser. I didn't have, honestly, probably the best organization calendar, but this gave me opportunity to sit here and do touch base Thursdays. I wasn't doing great reaching out. And so when you stop complaining and just say, man, I'm grateful now that I have 5 minutes to go talk to my head coach who probably didn't have that time. I have 5 minutes now that I can jump on a Zoom call, like Ben said, instead of having to run across campus. Now I can be more effective and spend more time with family and be with people that I really want to be strategic about. And so I would just encourage anybody on this call, if you're needing that motivation, just stop complaining. It's not really going to help anything. I know that's pretty direct and blunt, but just be grateful. Be grateful for a lot of the adversity. And again, this is not participation trophy. We're all out here trying to be great, and we're all trying to push to be better. And this is really going to push us to be so much better as an industry and be thinking of things that we've never thought of.
Love that. I think at the end of the day, when things get really hard, and this is for anyone in athletics fundraising, anyone in fundraising at large who's looking to make that transition, anyone in college athletics who is on this call, it is a grind. It is a grind. It is hard. It's challenging. But at the end of the day, what's really important is to think back to your why. Why did you get in this business? Why does it matter to you? At the end of the day, why did you decide to do this? I mean, there's a reason and it may be different for all of us. But at the end of the day, reminding ourselves, thinking back to being in grad school and working on our thesis or our independent study, thinking back to being in our undergrad and all the grinding we did there and all the shadowing we did in internships. Why did we want to do it then? To work with student athletes, to have their experience be better so that it can be similar to the experience we had or better than that experience. Why do you do what you do is really important. And I think for me, that keeps me really motivated to just think back. Why did I get in this business to start? On those days where, I get home and I'm still working and my husband says, why aren't you off your computer yet? It's a challenging road, but it's so worth it. It's just so worth it. So that's my feedback there.
Well, thank you, everyone. Everyone did a great job. Thank you to everyone who attended and for all the questions. We are here for you. Please reach out to anyone with any questions for follow-up, anyone in the NAD Executive Committee, but wishing everyone well. And I'll turn it back to Grant.
Yeah, that was a great session today. Thanks, everyone. Alicia, Tim, Kylie, and Ben, thank you for your time and energy. Appreciate you all. Jen, great work. Thanks for leading us today. We'll hope you all join us again Thursday, December 3rd, as we tackle our final session in professional development, athletic director success through fundraising careers. So thanks again and have a great evening, everyone.
See you. Be well.